All right. So Peter, I think you're going to have to click on that just to make sure you know you're being recorded. But obviously, we're up to 139 participants. If it gets to 150, Peter's going to give away $1 million. He's going to give away $1 million in a random draw to whoever's in the group. But okay, so guys, officially, this is the PyroGenesis Q&A here, November 3rd. We always have a lot of fun doing these, but more importantly, or as importantly, we get great information in the hands of shareholders because Peter does a great job of providing that context to what the company's doing. And Peter, I got to tell you, where we started with Agoracom and PyroGenesis, the idea of, hey, let's communicate more closely. Did you ever think it would get to this point where there's just such a great family of shareholders around PyroGenesis? Great questions, great engagement. You're so great at, make sure you're getting back to everybody as much as possible. Did you ever think it would come to something like this?
I always thought that the company would get to this point, actually even beyond, George. I have full confidence in the technology in the company, which is why I invest in it all the time. And I'm fully invested in it. So I did expect, it might sound arrogant, but I did expect it to get to this point. Maybe
well,
not.
The company itself, yeah. I mean, the engagement. Just look, we've got all these people who are.
I'm excited.
147 people right now. So
147
giveaway.
Wow. Wow. I don't know if I can answer 147 questions.
Yeah, I don't know if
I have that knowledge, but no, I'm very excited where we are right now. George, we have no debt on our balance sheet. We're cashed up. We're nailing contract after contract. I think I've mentioned that we've spoken up to about $38 million of contracts since June 30th.
Say that again. How many?
I think if you add up all the contracts we've spoken to since June 30th in press releases, it's about 38 million. We announced one just recently for 9.2. That's outrageous. I mean, what was in 2019? Our revenues for the year were $4.8 million. I mean, we're talking the end of 2019, which is just less than 2 years ago.
You talk about a 10x increase over what in one quarter? Since June 30th, essentially it's a quarter.
That's correct.
4 or 5 months for you, a little more than that, but still unbelievable.
We've been posting record backlog of signed contracts. Our 6 months of $14 million, I think $14 million of revenues is almost as high as all last year. So the trend is really progressing, and with the right type of clients and the right market segments. I couldn't have wished for anything better. So we're well positioned, and we're actually opening up new fronts. The press release our last press release for $9.2 million for the PFAS hazardous waste and emerging hazardous waste stream, and PFAS is just an acronym, I think, for polyfluoroalkyl substances, which is what is in your shampoo and goes into the water. Those type of substances were never considered to be hazardous, and now they're considered to be hazardous, and they don't know how to handle them. They're looking for solutions, and we've come up with a solution, and that's just a humongous business line that we're very anyway. So
yeah, we're going to dive into
that. We'll get into all this, but you're asking me where we're in a very exciting place. It's intoxicating.
There are so many revenue streams now that you've got. Which ones, and I know you're excited about all of them, which ones are really starting to show great promise? Which ones do you think are really starting to come into their own?
Well, it's like Sophie's Choice, the movie, right? How do you choose amongst the few? So we used to have 4 offerings. We increased it to 5 offerings with the new acquisition. Iron ore pelletization is just a monster in and of itself. What we're doing in the aluminum industry is also intoxicating. Our environmental business, which leveraged off of our success with U.S. Navy, has always been military Navy offerings, and we just branched out recently into our first land-based offering, which is what I just mentioned to you, the land-based $9.2 million to deal with PFAS, new waste stream. 3D printing is the one that's under the radar, George. It's we're plodding along there, and you're going to find it explode at one point. And so, which one is captivating? I mean, they all are at different levels. And for what investors can look forward to, I believe, is which one's going to go first, come up first. I don't know. So there's a lot happening, George. There's a lot happening.
The great thing is they're all in play and they're all succeeding. So I'll ask you the first question about revenue guidance, because that came out today, and then we'll dive into the questions that we're getting in the Q&A. By the way, we're at 164. So for those who joined late, Peter said that if we pass 150, he'd give away $1 million on air today, and that's a joke.
Wow, George, you're unique. You're unique.
But we're 164. So hey, revenue guidance. I'll ask you about that first, then we'll dive into questions. Q1 last year, 736,000. This year, 6.3 million. Q2 last year, 2.1 mil. This year, 8.3 million. So the guidance you're giving is for Q3 and for the 9 months ended September 30th. That last year was $11 million. This year, you think is going to exceed $22 million.
Well, it will exceed $22 million.
Yeah, that's the guidance that you're giving. Where's most of that coming from?
So I don't want to get into the specifics of the revenue, so I'm not sure whether I can give that, but one reason why we're giving guidance at this particular time as opposed to earlier is essentially because we have to account for revenues based on percent complete. Percent complete is we have to wait till the end of the quarter and gather all the data, and sometimes it's being confused also by the fact that the supply chain is creating some sort of challenges, so we have to incorporate that. And we acquired Air Science, so it took us a little bit of time to get to the guidance. The revenues are coming from the usual suspects: torches, DROSRite.
Are you surprised how the torches and DROSRite have started taking off? Yeah, even the aluminum side. It's amazing how those have all just really come into their own in the last couple of months. Yeah,
well, it's kind of surprising to people because we've announced it, but I've hinted at being inside the fence is creating huge opportunities. Both downstream, I actually spoke to specifically dealing with residues, and now upstream with some unidentified, regretfully, because there's IP associated with it that we're generating, and we don't want to disclose exactly what we're doing until, first of all, we nail the contract, and also so that we can also generate the IP properly. So being inside the fence has generated a lot of excitement within the DROSRite upstream, downstream, but also generally speaking, the aluminum industry. We're also doing a project with Alouette, and I think that's the one that also has some Canadian government funding, where we're taking residues that are coming off of what they call spent pot liners. But just don't worry about that. They're residues that are coming off something in the aluminum industry and have been plaguing the aluminum industry. They don't know what to do with them. They send it to landfill. We are hopefully going to be able to repurpose them into something quite valuable and addressing another concern within the aluminum industry, a very conservative industry. And so now we're having a significant presence within that industry, George, and success breeds success. They now will start hopefully turning towards us for solutions and other issues because they have confidence with us. So this is extremely exciting. So when you ask me, am I surprised? No, because that's how we're strategically positioning the company to take advantage of being inside the fence and slowly develop an aluminum presence.
All right, let's get to some of the questions here. And PFAS seems to be one that's really interesting, people. Of course, we see $9.2 million. I mean, that all, and just kind of came out of nowhere. So I'm going to combine one of the questions here. Actually, okay. So I'm going to try to combine these. I'll go through them and keep asking. What's the genesis behind the PFAS contract? How'd you end up applying for such a bid? Let's start with that.
So if I recall correctly, we were approached to see if we could come up with a solution for this problem. I think if I recall it correctly. And when we looked at the issue, the problem, and whether we could address it or not, and if we could address it, the potential business afterwards, we decided to, you know, to put forth a proposal, and we won it. We're very careful what bids we look at, particularly in the land-based environmental side, because we don't have all these assets we can just, people and time, we don't have it that we can just spend without having a high degree of confidence that we'll be successful in the bid, and if we are successful in the bid in the actual business. So that's how we got it. What's real interesting in that press release is I mentioned that I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that we're doing looking at two other opportunities in that same state.
Right.
Which has a lot of importance because every state of the United States has different regulatory pressures. And this particular state has certain regulatory requirements, and we nailed it with one client, with now a client. And so it looks good for the other two, given that they're under the same pressures. So we're very excited about the potential there in that particular state, but also now that it's out there in the news and that we can actually address this particular waste stream, we fully expect that there's going to be a lot more interest in how we do it, and possibly other contracts coming out of it.
And that's kind of a question in here, and that's on my mind as well. Given the gravity of this problem, is it safe? I don't want to say it's safe to assume, but I guess there's a good reason to be confident that this isn't a problem just in this state. That's got to be in many other states as well. And
it's all over the place. There's some countries, I believe, that have actually outlawed this waste stream from the supply chain. I think Biden made it a key element in his campaign to address this particular waste stream and to have it classified as a hazardous substance and to be dealt with appropriately. It's very, if you Google it and look at, I mean, not you particularly, but people Google and look at, you'll see that it's a huge problem and a very big problem that it looks like it has to be addressed short with, and we're at the cutting edge. I believe we're at the cutting edge.
The question is, how are you approached? Just through word of mouth? Because it's not as if this is something we'd really done before. You know, so how
are we approached? I leave my number on bathroom walls, George, and they just call me. I was rude. I'm kidding. Look, we're known in various places being a solutions company for waste streams, typically dangerous or difficult waste streams. And again, I don't know. I can't recall exactly how it occurred. I believe we were approached by someone to look at it, and we decided to move forward on it.
From the time you're approached to the time you're awarded, what kind of timeline is that? How long did it take?
Again, I'd have to check up specifically, but I think
ballpark. I'm not trying to pin you down to an exact.
My guess is 6 months. I think
that would seem pretty fast.
Plus or minus.
That would seem pretty fast in my book. That's a good sign.
Yeah, I'd have to check on that, George, and get back to you. If anybody's interested and really wants to know, send me an email on Agoracom, and I'll give you the right number. But I think it was about 6 months.
Peter Radnich has a great question. How large a population would a $9.2 million system
Somebody asked me that question.
That's a great question.
Somebody asked me that question somewhere. I can't remember where. I don't know. I don't know the number of people that this would actually service. Off the top of my head, I know the company and what it does, and I can probably take a guess, but I don't want to indicate that because then people may know the state. so I'll pass on that.
What has flowed from that, Peter? You know, obviously somebody out there saw the award. Has it safe to say that more inquiries have come in as a result of it?
I haven't heard any specific ones that we haven't been actually already identified and been working on. I suspect so, but I haven't been updated on it, George. It takes time sometimes to get that news across, but without a doubt, this is making waves within the industry, without a doubt.
Have you guys got any kind of estimation of how big of a market? Do you look at this for now as a North American opportunity, or are you guys willing to go global? Whoever
It's a
calls.
worldwide opportunity. It's a worldwide opportunity. Once you leave Canada, I mean, it's international. It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter where it is. It's the same problem. So I'm not being coy.
No.
There's look. It boils down to this. It's really basic. It's a new hazardous waste stream. We were approached. We decided to take a shot at it. We won, and it might be the only contract we ever get in the industry. I highly doubt it, because we have something that works, I think. So, it could be Georgia, the only one we ever get, but it wouldn't be logical that we won the first one and there's absolutely no other contract coming. It looks like we've identified a huge problem that needs to be addressed. No, we didn't identify the problem. It was brought to us. We said, yeah, it is a huge problem. We do have the capacity, we believe, to address it. And that's why we did it. And again, it goes to how we choose new projects. They have to have, if we're successful, it can't just be a one-off. I mean, it should be a multiple sales as a result. I'm extremely excited about this new deal. It also represents a milestone in PyroGenesis history. It's the first non-military environmental land-based deal that we've ever done. It's really cool.
Program note to everyone who's joined in since we started the Q&A. Some people are posting their questions in the chat, which is great. If you guys can do me a favor, throw your questions in the Q&A section. That way they're all in one place. The chat's great for the thumbs up and all that, because we love those. We'll be reading those off. But if you can, put your questions into the Q&A section, guys and gals. But I say guys as in the whole group. Peter, questions come up about COP26. We know that's just took place in Europe. Peter, how do you feel about countries at COP26 talk about pledging billions, even trillions, to funding green tech initiatives? And within there, you've got Jacques Fillon who says, in your opinion, will COP26 accelerate decision-making by the iron ore corporations with respect to purchase of torches?
That's an interesting question. Look, if people start throwing money at a problem, and it gets a lot of attention, and a lot of people start adopting it because they have access to the capital that they may not have had in the past and they may need to in order to execute. So that's very exciting. To be in an industry that's getting this type of attention is exciting. One of the things, George, that's the most exciting thing in my book, that what we do is we try to make processes and offerings that are cheaper than legacy technologies. And that's key. And again, I can't emphasize it enough. If you really want to make sustainability sustainable, if you really want to reduce greenhouse gases, if you really want to reduce the environmental footprint of the corporations leave behind, you got to offer them something cheaper than what they're doing. And we believe we've done this, or we're doing this. Grants and tax credits and whatnot, incentives are great, are great, okay? However, I think sometimes it's an impediment to getting things done cheaper, because entrepreneurs may develop a product that's not quite cheaper than legacy technologies, but with all the grants and things like that, it makes it cuts, but it's unreasonable to ask companies to do things that are more expensive. Anyways, I've spoken about this before. I'm very excited that there's tons of money being spent or allocated to these initiatives, and that we believe that we're offering things that are cheaper than legacy. So when you put the two together, the timing is perfect, our offerings are perfect, and we hope to take a lion's share of that market.
Steve Barry and a couple other, so I'm going to go through, are asking about the torches naturally. So I'm going to string a couple of questions together here. And by the way, because the Q&A format doesn't put in order for me, so I have to hop around. So you may see me, scrolling while we're talking. But Steve asked, the RFQ for the 36 torch order was quite some time ago. Can you provide an update? And then I'm going to ask you some other questions about torches as well.
So, Steve, let me put things in perspective. There was no request for a 36 torch order. The 36 torch order, if I recall, was the visibility client A gave when they ordered one torch. They said, so let me put it into perspective for people who are new to the story about iron ore pelletization and what we do. We basically are able to replace fossil fuel burners that are damaging to the environment with plasma torches, which do not damage the, do not give off greenhouse gases. The industry itself is under a lot of pressure. We've identified certain clients we name A, B, and C. So client A and client B have gone through computer simulations. Now they've ordered torches. And it's a very conservative industry. They like to tick the boxes and make sure that nothing untoward is happening and then move to the next stage. To put things in perspective, when we were doing the computer simulation for client A, they're already in the process of putting the contract together for the first torch order. That's how confident they are. They were just ticking the box and moving forward. So client A, computer simulation, first torch order, and they put us on notice that if this is successful as well, they put the torch in the system and it all works the way it's supposed to, the next order we should expect would be for 36 torches. That does not mean that client A is limited to 36 torches. Client A has a lot more torches that they would order to replace their diesel burners. 36 would be the first order. So it wasn't a request for quote. It was visibility on the future, which we shared with you in our press releases. Similarly, client B went through a computer simulation and did not order just one torch. They ordered 4 torches to go to the next phase. Again, that's what they wanted, to tick the box that nothing untoward is happening. They gave us a heads up that the next group of orders would total 130 torches. That's not to say that's all they would order, but that's the next batch of orders. So we gave the same visibility to the marketplace because it's important. It's important to see how it's progressing. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who asked it. So it wasn't a request it wasn't a request for proposal. It was a
actually, Brett McDuff says it was news released as an RFQ.
It wasn't news released as an RFQ.
Okay, maybe, yeah, that's everyone's trying to help a little. So question then is,
I don't think, maybe, I don't know. I don't think so, but
Adam Mountjoy is asking, do we know or ballpark when are the first 4 torches expected to be delivered?
Oh, George, sorry, it wasn't a request for quotation, it was a cost estimation. So somebody asked us for a cost estimation. That's what it was. It was for a cost estimation. And that's what I remember the press release now. And I said that what was material was, that's right. Sorry, George. It was material because it was a 36, it wasn't 35, it wasn't 40, it was a specific number. And it seemed to indicate that they actually identified a furnace, one particular furnace or one particular section, because 36 is a very specific number. I'm sorry, Barry was his name. I apologize. You're right. There was a 36 torch request for estimation. Not a request for quote.
Yeah, and you're right, because Midtown Guy, thanks Midtown Guy, says he's quoted from the June 3rd news release, has received a request for a cost estimate for 36 plasma torches from a major iron ore producer.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, the estimation is different from a request for quote, but
yeah,
it's so they can do their math and figure out background, and then what they do is they'd ask for a quote afterwards. That would be the logical progression. You ask for an estimate to figure out what it would cost, and then once they're satisfied, they'd ask for a quote for that. So I apologize, I misunderstood the question.
Yep, don't worry about that. It's live, so sometimes. Adam Mountjoy. So since we're talking about the torches, we're talking about client. You mentioned client B. Do we have an ETA ballpark for when the first 4 torches are expected to be delivered to client B?
Okay, we haven't press released that. So
All right.
I think we press released, I think we we might press release that we expect them to be delivered. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I have my.
Peter, you're using a lifeline? Okay, Peter's
I
using
use
a
the
lifeline.
lifeline. Rodin is the background here, guiding me on what's been press released and what's not been press released, because I could get into a lot of trouble in these live Q&As. So we haven't press released anything with respect to timelines for client for the 4 torches.
Yeah, and I don't even think, are you able to give us a ballpark? Would it be sometime before the end of 2021? Would it be in Q1? Are you able to give that kind of guidance?
No.
Okay. Hey, but we.
Okay, the guidance I'll give you with respect to the torches, I fully expect that it'll be reasonable to expect that sometime in 2022, for both companies, the torches will be in place and operating, and they'll be able to make decisions.
Wade Hewlin, since we're talking about torches, can you provide some insight into client C and why we haven't seen an order for at least one torch as a trial yet?
Yeah, that's a good question because we haven't addressed it. It's still going great guns with respect to client C. I think we announced that they probably would have wanted to go straight to a torch order, and what we prefer to do is do a computer simulation, and that's where it stands right now. We're moving forward with them. Nothing untoward has happened. There's nothing more to say other than that right now.
And so, Adam, one more question there on the 7 million net present value for a plasma torch and what assumptions are being used. He says, I believe it was indicated this was initial torch sale plus 20 years of service. Does this account for inflation and such, or just purely contracted revenue?
So what it is it assumes, I believe, a initial torch price of around $1.5 million, and then the discounted value of sales and spare parts over 20 years with an inflation factor included in it. We limit it to 20 years, but I think we've also said these torches can last up to 30 years as well as the furnaces, but we cut it at 20 years. And the reason
you're being conservative there, the net present value could actually be a lot higher.
Yeah, and the thing is, we wanted to give an indication of what this actually represents to the company. If we get a torch order, commercial torch order, that it's very significant to the company.
PlutoGenesis. First off, congratulations to Peter and the team on the spectacular progress over the years. It's been quite a ride. Looking forward to future offerings. Second, thank you, George and team, for this platform that facilitates this interaction with shareholders. Much appreciated. Pluto, thank you. You're welcome. Their question, additive manufacturing. If the tier 1 aerospace entities were to require more titanium powder than one tower can produce, fingers crossed, would they have to go through the whole process of vetting the second tower material from scratch, or would you be able to create the second tower to the same exact specifications as the first one? Thanks, PlutoGenesis.
Okay. So we are positioning ourselves to be able to produce multiple towers to the same specs and be able to do just one qualification. I mean, we're prepared to do that. So it hasn't become an issue just yet, or a question mark. I believe that once we are qualified and we don't have, and we have locked down the production in one tower, it'll be relatively simple to do the second.
Mark Lees, can you update us on discussions with the concrete industry with respect to exploring the use of plasma torches in their various production processes? I believe previously you had indicated that discussions were taking place. Is this industry low-hanging fruit, or are Pyro's resources better directed elsewhere? Good question, Mark.
So without going into specifics, what we're doing is we're actually dedicating business development forces to actually promoting our plasma torch as a general replacement for diesel burners across all industries, including the cement industry, the glass industry, automotive. We're getting a lot of attention from, believe it or not, the automotive industry, and of all the different industries. I think that's the lower hanging fruit of all the other industries. But we have targeted all the other industries that we mentioned in our press releases, and we're getting quite a good response. It's timely, actually, George. People are trying to reduce their greenhouse gases and get away from diesel burners across on all industries across the world. So it's quite timely.
I'm hopping around here, guys, because by the way, there are more PFAS questions. So in case you asked a PFAS question, I think we've already dealt with it. We'll definitely come back and answer those. I'm trying to just get a little bit of spreading around here. So one question, there are a couple of different questions. How's the project with tunnel boring advancing?
I think we press released that. So for those that are new to that type of question, or that what we're doing there, we were approached by a company that was not identified to see if we could use plasma for tunneling. What we found was the type of plasma torch that they were looking for, that we were developing with them. We did not see it to be the plasma torch of choice. We do not believe that was going to end up anywhere of value. So we decided to not pursue it anymore because it made no sense. We'd be taking money for nothing. There's two takeaways here. First of all, we believe that a different type of plasma torch would be ideal. That's one. We haven't really pursued that to any serious degree. I mean, so that we would press release with anybody else. It's still an R&D effort. And unless we actually went forward with someone else on R&D effort, we have other things that we can do that are lower hanging fruit and have, in my opinion, a higher degree of success than pursuing this particular venture. But should we find someone that wanted to pursue it with us, we'd do that. The other takeaway here is a little more subtle and not so obvious, because it speaks to HPQ. And people ask me, what do you think is happening with HPQ? Do you think it's going to be a success? Well, this is an example of an example about the tunneling. If I don't think it's going to be a success, we don't have time to waste just pushing something that just for the contract, just for the for giggles. I have to be convinced that there is a huge that we have a huge chance of being successful, and the business or the opportunity beyond that is equally as great. So two takeaways. One, we honestly did not see that this was the right type of plasma torch, so we decided to move away from it and maybe do it ourselves somehow in some way else. That's still under review. But it also the bigger importance of the biggest takeaways is essentially that I think it gives support to what we're doing at HPQ to some degree, because we're there, we're invested, and we continue moving forward with HPQ.
And I'm definitely going to ask you a question about HPQ as well. I don't want to ping pong too much. So staying with torches, Brian Carson asks, how confident should shareholders be based on both Vale and Rio Tinto directly mentioning plasma torches in their press release documents, especially considering Pyro's patent in this field?
Who asked that?
Brian Carson.
Brian, I think you answered your own question, haven't you? Here we have a patent to replace diesel burners in that industry. And two players in that industry have mentioned that they want to use plasma to deal with their diesel burner problem. I'll let you guys fill in the rest.
Hey, Peter, at some point, and we're not saying, because I don't even know who they are, but whoever the iron ore producers are, right? Yeah. At some point, as hopefully you get really down the road, I'll give you a second to get it together.
I'm good. That's good.
As you get really down the road with sales, will there come a point where you can say, okay, we can now, we can now unveil that it's George Com iron ore, and ABC Iron Ore, not using any names so that we don't give any.
I think what they'll do is they'll announce it before we do. I think they're going to get a lot of positive. It's positive. It's really positive. I mean, you've got. Can you imagine these iron ore pelletizers? They got the whole world is on their case about damaging the environment, and all of a sudden they come up with this great technology that deals with it in one fell swoop. I mean, they're going to want a press release. They're going to want to announce it. I mean, I'm actually surprised they actually announced it the way they have already. I guess maybe I'm not so surprised, but
I guess given what's going on with COP26 and everything, they probably want to send a message out to the world. Hey, we're on this and we'll provide you more specifics later. But I guess they just want to let, because ESG is so important now.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very important. And so it should be. And I think companies should try and as I said, propose technologies that are cheaper than legacy and make it a non-issue for companies. It's cheaper, it's environmental friendly, adopt it. And I think that's the way you make sustainability sustainable. And that's what we're trying to do, George. That's what we're trying to do here. And again, I don't know if people really understand how difficult it is to it's not difficult, I guess. Multi-billion-dollar companies are huge organizations, and to get their attention and to maintain their attention, to get them to change their thinking or their direction is not easy. And we can't.
Shareholders might be thinking client A, B, and C wake up in the morning thinking about PyroGenesis, but they're thinking about their entire operations
and their entire operations and whatnot. And so when you look at these multi-billion-dollar iron ore pelletizers, they have their own strategy. They're raising money. They're going forward. They're trying to do something. And all of a sudden, PyroGenesis comes out of left field with news from Sweden on some successes. First of all, they got to figure out who we are. And then they got to get permission to go forward, even in a small computer simulation. They got to get money from somewhere. Somewhere they got to get the money. So they got to make a justification. They got to create an internal case to support this change. It's a change in direction, and it's going to require money. So it takes time to do that. Then they decide to go get torches. They got to identify the furnace. They got to get the people in place, and this takes time. And if it's you and me, George,
they've got to allocate people to measure it, read the data.
Yeah,
they got report the analytics. What were our efficiencies? What's the cost benefit? It's not just George and Peter making a decision on dinner.
Can you imagine going up to your boss and saying, guess what? We're going this direction, but they've got this company called PyroGenesis. Who the hell's PyroGenesis? What do they do? And get over that hurdle, and then get the money allocated, and then moving forward. I mean, between me and you, George, I was saying, we can have a quick conversation, meet with some of these investors, if we can have a quick conversation and get to a conclusion. But you got multi-billion-dollar companies that are already invested going down a certain path. Get them to change direction, invest money and time. It's incredible. We've done it already with A, B, and C, and others in the industry and other industries. But again, the reason we don't go and talk about more than A, B, and C, as I said before, George. A could be mistaken, B could be a copycat. But when you got three people, multi-billion-dollar companies going down the same route independently, you can pretty much be assured that we're onto something. It may not be the right thing. I mean, I don't see how it could not be. I personally think there's really no other reasonable technology right now that can actually address their problem right now. That's my opinion. And so far, our progress seems to validate that.
And your progress, if you had to look at a Gantt chart, you guys are probably way down the path now, because you identified all those initial, where you were talking about just a minute ago, was what you had to go through a year ago and just getting attention and resources. But you guys are really down the path now.
George, right? They came to us. Once the news came out of Sweden, they came to us, and there was a surprise. They couldn't believe it. And I think part of it was, if we just did an experiment in our basement and came up with results, it may not have the same effect. Because it came out of Sweden, from where it came out, under the and the credibility of the people we were dealing with in Sweden, I think that had added a lot of credibility to what we were doing and saying. So again, to all those people out there, don't underestimate what's happened here at PyroGenesis and iron pelletization. I keep on saying it's gone lightning fast. I know it's hard to believe, but it's incredibly fast. So that's I can't remember the question, George. Sorry.
No, well, we went
I got
off
off
on a
topic
tangent
there.
from there. No, we went
Yeah.
up. We started off with why not from client C. Daniel Gritchen asked, with plasma torches requiring a good amount of electricity to operate, do you see plasma torches being restricted to certain geolocations that can supply a high green power? Or do you see other types of energy sources powering the plasma processes?
That's interesting. So I think, so you can rest assured that the clients that we're talking to understand the restrictions with respect to electricity, et cetera. I believe they have to address the greenhouse gas issues of fossil fuel burners. I also believe that they're fully prepared to put in the infrastructure that would support plasma torches to be used in various locations. Again, the stars are lining up nicely because governments are supporting two things in the world to stimulate the economies, as you can see: environmental and infrastructure. So if I'm an iron ore pelletizer or another industry, and I see that eventually I'm going to have to change the infrastructure to address my environmentally damaging process, now would probably be a good time to move forward with the infrastructure changes, given all the support that seems to be available to do that these days, and increasing. So I don't know if I answered the question. I think I did.
Rayo Mark. Hi, Peter. We're going to switch gears now to Pyro Green Gas because, man, that little acquisition has just done wonders. And I'll get you to talk about that in general too. But does Pyro Green Gas have as much potential as iron ore pelletization? Also, do you have plans of adding your plasma torches into those systems? Thanks for taking the time out of your day to give us great insight, Mark Realm.
That's a good question. So yeah, Pyro Green Gas, or Air Science, formerly known as Air Science Technologies, has been a great acquisition. We really didn't put anything. We bought them for $4-point-something million, but basically, it's all that money is being paid out on different milestones being achieved. What they are known for is repurposing landfill gases coming out of off of a landfill into something called renewable natural gases. Renewable natural gases, particularly in North America, are being regulated more and more into pipelines. So gas pipelines are having minimum renewable natural gas requirements going forward. What that does is it takes off the strain of actually damaging the environment by getting the gas that's going through the pipeline. So the more gas that goes through the pipelines, it's coming from renewable natural gas, the better. So that's the backdrop. So what they do is they take gas that's coming off of landfills, which is damaging the environment already, and repurposing it into what's considered to be a renewable natural gas. That's really cool, because they're right now in North America, a lot of regulations are being put in place that mandate that gas pipelines have a minimum amount of this renewable natural gas. And we do not see there to be enough suppliers of renewable natural gas. So that's where the opportunity is. And as a footnote, we just signed, I think it was a $5 million deal. Not signed, we announced a $5 million deal that we're going to get involved in this area. The footnote to this, which nobody's really focused on, is they also have a technology which can convert coke oven gas, which is a gas that comes off of making steel. So making steel, you use coke oven and the gas comes off of it. They have a technology that can repurpose that gas, take that gas and make it into a valuable hydrogen product. And they have they're doing that for a multi-billion-dollar company called Tata Steel, which is now one of our clients, I guess, by default. Now, what's interesting here? Remember what I said, coke oven gas repurposed into a high-value hydrogen. On our land-based systems where we take garbage, what we do is we make a syngas from that garbage, which is then used to make electricity and heat. Electricity and heat is very cheap output. It's a very cheap output. Guess what? We believe the coke oven gas that they're able to convert into a valuable hydrogen is very similar to the syngas that comes off our land-based systems. So if we can take the syngas and use Pyro Green Gas's technology to convert into a higher value hydrogen, and we take that syngas, which is very similar to coke oven gas, and convert it to high value hydrogen, bingo, what have we done? We've just made our land-based systems more valuable. Okay, to extreme example, our land-based systems right now are making cheap water, and now we make it into gold. It's an extreme example. That's what we're doing. We're going to take our land-based systems, and instead of what we do with the syngas, instead of making cheap electricity and water, maybe we can actually make high-value hydrogen, which would make our land-based systems extremely valuable, and extremely exciting. So that's essentially what we bought Air Science for, what was known for was the conversion of landfill damaging gases into viable renewable natural gas that can go into pipelines. But there's also this side aspect to the business, which is extremely exciting. And okay, that we just acquired them, so we haven't explored that to the degree where I can actually discuss something. But I actually mentioned in our press releases, it's extremely exciting. Side note to that acquisition.
And I mean, even the acquisition itself, forget about the side note, like what does it mean to have Tata Steel as a reference company in all this? You know,
it's another multi-billion-dollar company. Right?
I mean, that's bad. And I don't know how much was made of that, because we always focus on the torch side, client A, B, and C, which are great when we find out who they are. But Tata Steel, man, that's, you know, I didn't foresee, you know, Air Science translating into.
Look, I got to tell you something. The fact that Air Science managed to nail that contract is actually astounding.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic feat. That's an unbelievable accomplishment.
And Tata Steel is a great company, and quite frankly, there's opportunities to cross-sell some of our other technologies to Tata Steel, leveraging off of that relationship through Air Science. So that's also something that's not even, I mean, it's obvious, so I don't have to say it, but there's a lot of cross-selling that can take place as well.
And there's got to be a lot of references coming from that, because everybody in the industry, in the steel industry, knows who Tata is. And if they see that they're doing this, has the phone rang from ABC Steel and XYZ Steel because they've seen what we're doing with Tata?
I can't say it has. That's maybe because we're not pushing it right. Yeah. Speaking
of hydrogen, let's hop over to HPQ a little bit. And I won't talk about the hydrogen yet, but that's kind of like a, you know, indirect.
So we have to be careful. The only reason I want to tell people beforehand is, listen, I like to defer to HPQ. You're talking, George, talking about our relationship with HPQ. And the reason I like to defer questions to HPQ as opposed to me answering them is because I'm not that intelligent. I can't really remember everything that HPQ is saying and press released, and I'm debriefed often on the events there, so I don't remember what's been press released.
Well, they said you're going to do about $1 billion in revenue together. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, that's very conservative, right? I mean, no, but the thing is, because I write my press releases, I know my press release fairly well. Although today I stumbled a couple of times. I can't remember what he wrote and what he wants to speak about. So I like to defer HPQ questions to HPQ. I think that's appropriate, and it's the polite thing to do.
Yeah,
maybe you got some easy ones here to ask. I can answer them. But suffice it to say that we are working with HPQ very closely. I'm extremely excited about what HPQ is doing and how it's progressing. You know, our history with the tunneling company is, if we don't think there's a future, we're not going to pursue it. You know, we're not going to pursue it. So that's the backdrop to any conversation with HPQ.
I'll ask you a little more specific, so I'm not going to go into details, but the commissioning of the reactor is now taking place. and that's on your premises, right?
That's correct.
How are you guys feeling about that? So I won't ask specifics, but is that a really exciting event around there that the QRR is now in commissioning phase? And
It's coming along, right? We're going to that phase, and the equipment's coming, and we're moving forward with it. It's very exciting, and not just in anytime that happens, it's very exciting. It's a milestone that we reached, and this baby was nothing a few years ago, right? When we started with HPQ, and now it's growing up, into something. So it's quite exciting.
By the way, Alan Hickman has asked, you asked a question about tunneling. We dealt with that, but I want to make sure I acknowledge you for answering, for asking the question. Leslie Henry, nice question. I like these kind of questions. What's the biggest challenge in 2022 for PyroGenesis?
Oh boy.
Or you don't have to, it doesn't have to be the one biggest, like what are some of the challenges? Because it's not all, no company, I don't care who you are, it can't be all rainbows and unicorns. So, what are the challenges that you guys face, like every corporation does?
I grew up answering multiple choice questions, George. I don't know how to come up with an answer like that. I just get the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge, I think, is making sure that we've identified and pursued the opportunities with the right people in place. I think right now, getting and keeping the right people is a huge challenge across all companies right now, and more importantly, managing the supply chain. Managing the supply chain challenges that are facing everybody in the world. What we've gone ahead to done is we've given permission to our procurement department to order quite a bit of material in advance, way in advance, to make sure that we have enough material on hand to do what we plan to do. So I think some of the challenges in 2022 is supply chain and post-COVID challenges, managing that. Having said that,
is supply chain impacting Pyro?
Everything. I mean, it's impacting everybody. I mean, so far we're managing it well. We've had a couple of surprises. It's funny because, just to give you an example, a manufactured example, okay? If we had something fully complete and is in our shipping dock and we cannot ship it out because we cannot get a ship lined up in short order and there's a delay. Everything's going well. We've done our part. Everything's going well. But because we have to delay the actual shipment from our dock, our percent completion is delayed. It's just an accounting issue, but it impacts the financials at some degree. If that happened to, if we were not planning far enough ahead and to realize that might be a risk, if somebody's not looking that far ahead, they might have that pop up as an issue. So again, I'm thinking out loud here. The question would be, the challenges right now are challenges, I think, in post-COVID or managing COVID, post-COVID, and also potential supply chain issues. And one of the difficulty is there's no playbook. There's no Harvard business case that you can study and learn off other people's experiences. We're actually writing the playbook. Everybody right now is writing the playbook as we move along. Having said that, it's not as if we have $10 million of debt on our balance sheet that has to be addressed. We're debt-free for all intents and purposes, and we have cash on our balance sheet. So we're well positioned. I believe we're well positioned to weather any issue with respect to those type of situations. And again, having cash on the balance sheet enables us to think ahead and buy in advance, where maybe other people don't have that luxury.
Reagan Bull is asking, where are the coffee and donuts?
Everywhere, on every offering, coffee and donuts up and down. We're inside the fence. We're inside the aluminum. We're talking to people inside the iron ore smelters already. Ooh, about other issues they may have. I mean, we don't stand still. That's for sure. We don't stand still. We keep on moving forward. We're selling coffee. We're adding donuts everywhere we can. Well, here's the coffee. I ate the donuts this morning.
I'm going to get through some PFAS questions here. Skylar Lebert asks the $9.2 million PFAS contract and the
Sorry?
other opportunities with the
Say that again, George?
in the recent news release, in the recent press release about PFAS, we talked about additional opportunities within the same state. 2 additional. I don't know if we asked this question. The question asking is, are these 2 additional opportunities with the same client or separate clients?
Separate. Separate. What I find is important or interesting in that tidbit is that they're not different states with different regulatory pressures. It's the same state with the same regulatory pressures, and we managed to address it to at least one group's satisfaction. That doesn't mean that the other 2 are going to follow suit, but it does mean that it's likely that they'll also be similarly satisfied. And I actually may take comfort that someone in the state also adopted our technology. So that's the little tidbit or takeaway from that tidbit.
Brent, so these these are questions we've dealt with. Brent asked, any ideas how large the PFAS market could be? I think you kind of addressed that, saying huge, even though you don't have a number. It's a massive one. It's global. Anonymous attendee said, how do you see the solution from Pyro for the PFAS? We've kind of sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to try and put it in perspective, but it'd be too risky. Sorry, George, go ahead.
Okay, but you're welcome to if you want to take a shot at it.
No, it'd be too risky right now.
Okay. And how long has Pyro been working on the PFAS treatment? So I think we kind of dealt with all those.
We said from beginning to end it was around 6 months, maybe it's a year. It's not long. I mean, it's not been like 3 years or 2 years. It hasn't been that long.
But thanks to all of you who, and by the way, the last 2 were from Anonymous, so I didn't know who they were. But I want to make sure we acknowledge everyone who took the time to post questions, knowing that they're here, and sometimes just deal with them earlier. Peter Dare has a cool question. Congrats, Peter. Great job so far. Given that the new International Sustainability Standards Board has been announced at the COP26 in Glasgow, with HQ in Frankfurt and Montreal as a secondary office, how do you intend to raise the profile of PyroGenesis with regards to its role in decreasing greenhouse gases? Because the good thing is it's a massive market. The challenge is, what are you guys doing? I guess this is on the biz dev side. I don't think this is on the IR side. What are you guys doing on the biz dev side to raise your, raise the profile of Pyro across the GHG?
So I think we've been very fortunate in the type of clients that we're the type of clients that we have, and that brings a lot of credibility to the table. And obviously, you want to make yourself known front and center to those that make decisions. This is very political. So politicians like to have easy solutions and low risk. And I think that's what we present. We present a high-tech, easy solution with low risk, given our history of solving these type of issues with credible clients. So there's going through the political connection route. There's going through industry players or platforms, presenting at conferences. It's just knocking on the door like we've done. It's just like how we got into the Navy or how we got into pelletization, how we've gone into 3D printing. We just knock on the door until it opens and present our case, which is quite compelling under this, particularly under these circumstances.
All right. Pardon me, guys, for a second. I'm just kind of going through these. There have been some questions about other solutions out there, and I'm getting some links and things like that. But I don't think I want to ask Peter those questions because there's, hey, this is something somebody else is doing. So maybe what I'm going to ask is, Yan, for example, if you want, there's been a great discussion going on with Brent and Yan as regarding Boston Metal as the ultimate solution for the iron industry. And I'm not sure if you have an answer for that, but they've had a great discussion. So maybe that's something we can have in the forum.
So I'll tell you, we've addressed these different issues in the forum several times. And oftentimes people are getting confused with iron ore pelletization and downstream. So iron ore pelletization makes iron ore pellets that are used downstream, and downstream they often use other base technologies to process it further. That's one problem that we find occurring. We get the same question: why is this not? And it's often downstream, so it's complementary. Other times, people are asking us about other technology, biofuels, hydrogen, as potential replacements for plasma-based solutions. Some of them are much too early solutions. They're maybe 5-10 years away, if they are. And when you look at biofuels from cradle to grave, they're not a solution. They're actually damaging as well. And we've addressed them in the forum, but if people want to post them again, we'll just copy paste and it's okay. We'll answer them again. So again, we know what's out there. We see what's out there. We don't feel threatened at it, not at this stage, not at all. Not even at any stage. We don't see, if somebody wants to pull the trigger now, I think we're pretty well positioned.
Question about the oil and gas industry. Hi, Peter. And by the way, it's come from anonymous, so we don't know the name. Hi, Peter. I'm a current MSc candidate in energy policy and been working in the oil and gas industry for 4 years. Pyro's story this far has obviously been very encouraging in overall GHG reduction, and it's a long one, so I'm kind of skipping through. One greenhouse gas reduction operational efficient strategy used in oil and gas is cogeneration. In simple terms, producing steam and electricity concurrently from the same source and using it to generate electricity. Unless I'm mistaken, I've not heard much about Pyro penetrating the oil and gas industry, offshore and onshore production, midstream pipelines, etc. Do you foresee a place for Pyro in this industry? And do you believe cogeneration is a potential barrier to entry?
The answer, so we were involved at some point in quite actively in the oil and gas industry, and then the oil and gas industry took a tumble, and there wasn't many funds available to introduce new technologies. I believe we do have a role in the oil and gas industry, and we may look at that sometime in the near future, but right now that's not a low-hanging fruit for us.
Right, and they go on to say, with Trudeau's latest plan to cap emissions in oil and gas, I wonder if the super majors will need to consider novel technologies to meet whatever the new requirements are. If implemented, all the best. Yeah. So there wasn't a question there, just saying if you could be the solution.
It's something we're actually looking at again, but there's nothing really interesting to report at this stage.
I'm kind of going through because there are a lot of duplicate questions, so it's hard to. Give me 1 second here. Brian Carson, can we expect any more patents on these low-hanging fruit industries like the auto industry you just mentioned with respect to plasma torch technology?
Well, we're an innovative company. We live and breathe on patents and protecting our unique technologies. So I suspect that if history is anything to go by, we'll be generating more patents, of course. Yeah.
Give me a second. Mike Carter, will you be pursuing oil and gas? So that was answered. Thanks. Wade Hewlin, are you able to leverage your U.S. military contracts to deal with U.S. military bases contaminated with PFAS? Thanks for all you do for all us retail investors.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Most certainly we would. We've generated we've developed an excellent reputation with the U.S. military as a company they can depend on for doing what we say we're going to do and coming up with innovative solutions. In fact, a while back we noted that we developed a system to destroy chemical warfare weapons for them. So we do have a significant degree of credibility with them. Again, because we dealt with U.S. Navy, which again, of all the arms of the U.S. military, is one that you have to really be credible to deal with them. So to leverage a success on the PFAS onto the military side, would definitely be something we'd be looking at.
All right, and Midtown Guy kind of adds some good commentary here. There's been press about how much the U.S. military bases are to blame for the PFAS issues, especially along the Great Lakes zone and in the Midwest states. These bases are committing billions to clean up money. Was the U.S. military in any way the in to the recent PFAS contract, and or are you aware this is an issue, and could Pyro's existing military contracts be a door opener to problems on those bases?
So if I remember the question, so were they the in? No, they weren't. Am I aware? Are we aware of this issue? Yes, we are. And could we develop military business based on the success? I believe the answer is it's a possibility. Yeah.
And Midtown Guy goes on to ask, and a couple of people have asked this about the headcount and everybody that you talked about at the very beginning. Given the changing employment sentiment, a renewed desire by people to work from home and or work in less stressful situations, and given how much of the plasma expertise Pyro already has on staff, are you finding any challenges in hiring for now or the future? Great question.
So can you read that? Can you read that to me slowly? I don't see them written here slowly, and I'll answer them.
Yep. Given the changing employment sentiment, which is a renewed desire by people to work from home, and given how much of the plasma expertise Pyro already has on staff, are you finding any challenges in hiring for now or the future?
I find it very difficult to hire over Zoom. Zoom interviews, I find it very, very difficult. I don't know. You'd think that'd be the same, but you get a different feel when somebody's in the office across the table from you. And again, it's very hard. I think Lee Iacocca said in his book, it's very hard to, in a 30-minute interview, to determine whether somebody has what it takes, which is fire in the belly. Having said that, are we finding any challenges? Well, we went from 150, I can't remember, in the 50s, 50 to 60 people pre-COVID to 115. So obviously we're attracting people and acquiring them. We don't find that. I think you said that there's a sentiment to have that people want less stress in their life, and they're not going to have less stress here at Pyro. That's for sure. there's a lot of stress at Pyro.
But I see where Midtown Guy's coming from. That there's some people saying, "Man, I like work from home. I can watch Netflix and chill a little bit while I'm doing." So is that presenting a problem where you now have fewer people to choose from, or are the really super high educated, science-based people not in that class and they want to be working at?
So what COVID taught me was, at least me personally, was you can actually work from home and get some valuable product coming out from people. Again, that's true. The other problem is that there are some people that will drive a truck through that opportunity and not really work as much from home. And again, I said that as an innovative company, you need to have some degree work in an office. Ideas come out spontaneously from a side conversation, as I said. So we are embracing not only work from home, a portion of work from home. I also believe this is totally separate, and I was discussing with Rodin as COVID was developing, the concept that I believe a good work-home balance might be a 4-day work week, believe it or not. We used to have 6-day work weeks, went to 5-day work weeks. I think there may be an opportunity to introduce some concept of a 4.5-day work week. If you do that and you do it right, you may actually have a company open 6 or 7 days a week. I mean, you can actually stagger the work week from, Monday to Thursday, Tuesday to Friday, Wednesday to Saturday. I do those right? But anyways, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. You might be able to stagger certain departments, and we're looking at that. We're looking at thinking outside the box or redefining the box for a better work-life balance. But you have to understand we're an innovative company. An innovative company needs a certain degree of interaction between people in the office. So we're trying to manage that. And we have so far.
And then Midtown Guy goes on to ask a couple more questions on that. With the increase in both projects and staff count, do you foresee the need to hire a chief operating officer to oversee production aspects at an executive level? Is there any gap between the scientific side, which is Pierre and his team, and the business side, which is Peter and the team, that could be filled with someone overseeing production so Peter and Pierre could focus more intently on their primary roles?
Is he looking for a job, George? Sounds like it. So, so the operation officer role is not one that there's people that are doing it. Pierre is very much part of that as the responsibilities of a COO are managed within the company. Whether we're going to have a separate COO remains to be seen. I don't think right now there's a need for it per se, but it might happen. There's no lack of communication between Pierre's group, my group. We interact almost on a daily basis. So there's a lot of, and I go back with Pierre over 20 years. I can't remember. I mean, we go back a long, long time. So we know how to communicate. I mean, even pre-COVID, we're so busy with doing different things, but we managed to get the information. And we have something called, what I put together, something called the strategic management group. Pierre is on it, I'm on it, the CFO is on it, the head of BD is on it, Rodena is on it. And what it is a group that meets regularly and discusses what's going on in the company, what the challenges are, where the challenges are, where the opportunities are, and how we're going to address different opportunities and challenges. So there's something that I've created many, many years ago called the strategic management group, and that's what its function is. So I think that might answer one of his questions with respect to managing the two groups, the engineering group, the operations side, and the administration side.
By the way, there are a lot of questions that have come in, and it's 2:20, so we're probably going to stop at 2:30 because 90 minutes is probably long enough. And then, the great thing is this is fluid, so everyone can continue with their questions.
I hope people are liking the back and forth Q&A. I hope they like it. I'm sitting here, George. I'm wondering whether it's helping at all, but I hope so. I hope so. I hope it's helping.
Well, we have someone here said Peter is super green man with exclamation marks. So
super green
no doubt. But look, PyroGenesis is becoming a bigger and bigger behemoth, right? So it's it used to be easier for you to do these, but they're still so important. And Ulf says, so here's Rich, liked, helps, fantastic. Ulf says, love these Q&A. And Brent McDuff says, much better than earnings call. Right? So
okay,
there you go. Wade says, wish all CEOs did this. Alan says, so now they're all just coming in. Alan says, love it.
Okay,
and guys, by the way, that's great, because even me, I know we're doing something pretty valuable here, but I have no idea how valuable it is. So to hear this kind of response from everybody in the chat section, thank you, Steve. Ditto. Alan, love it. And then Steve says ditto. So
my takeaway, actually, everybody, is it's really good for me because I get a sense of where the holes in the understanding are, and so I can tailor presentations and press releases to try and fill in some of those holes over the near future. So.
And I can tell you one thing, because we'll end in about 10 minutes. We're not going to get through all these, but we've gone through. There's a subject we haven't touched, which is great. There's a huge demand for PFAS here. It's unbelievable the number of questions still outstanding. How does it work, and all sorts of related questions to it. Daniel Hodgins, is the recent release news for PFAS just for the pilot plant? And another contract would follow for the commercial plant if successful, or is that amount for both plants? There's just a lot of great questions coming about PFAS. So Peter, maybe on the Agoracom PyroGenesis forum, you can do a lot more. Clearly there's a lot of demand for PFAS. So
I'm glad people are focusing on it, because that's as they call it, an emerging hazardous waste stream. That's proving very challenging. And it looks like we can help, which is also the coolest thing. I mean, we can help deal with that.
So that was from Daniel. Peter's got a question. Mark, actually, Mark Lee's going off a little different. Can you speak to your motivation to create PyroGenesis aluminum? which I think would be great business opportunity. Let's create it, right? But is there a motivation there to create PyroGenesis aluminum?
So what we're trying to do is, once something internally has a certain critical mass, is identify it and start managing it as a separate entity internally, like a division. And I think that's important because it focuses everybody internally as well on this opportunity, but also the outside world. Like, this is what we're doing in aluminum industry. It's instead of saying we're doing dross, right? We're doing alouette, we're doing upstream, we're doing residues all over the place as different offerings. Is we're actually having a significant presence in these particular industries, which if you look at them, it's pyro additive, pyro green gas right now, and pyro aluminum. So that's the motivation. That's the motivation to try and simplify, believe it or not, simplify all the things we're doing at PyroGenesis.
And you know what? I'm actually thinking it may not be a bad idea at some point for us to do a deck review together so that we can talk about each one and kind of silo it in its own 10, 15-minute discussion. And by the way, Daniel Hodgins weighs in with the PFAS announcement is the third largest contract ever next to Drosslight and the US Navy, ? But it's probably, it's way up there.
Yeah,
and
he's right.
That's why it's so interesting to know. It's very interesting, and it'd be great to know more if possible. So going forward, perhaps we could put together some information about an FAQ about the PFAS for everybody.
Yeah, maybe we should do a white paper on it and put it out there. Maybe that's something that's something interesting. Okay.
Well, the demand is obviously very big here, and I think it's safe to say that given the diversity of the shareholders, that this question is probably a big one everywhere, and a white paper for the industry and for shareholders would probably be very, very powerful. All right.
I agree.
Right. And then there's a lot of text coming in that keeps supporting. Peter says, thank you for these Q&As. Side question, can I also get some stock options? That's from Peter Karagoff. And thanks, Peter, the PYR team, and George. Really looking forward to the near future. No, thank you. Thank you, guys. Let me see if there's any more. Let me see if there are any differentiating questions, or, maybe we just start to wrap it up there, because believe it or not, there are 40. By the way, the questions I haven't got to, guys, and won't get to, is there are a lot of questions here about, hey, is Pyro talking to the widget industry, and is PyroGenesis talking to the gizmo industry? Let's try and stay away from all those hypothetical questions. It'd be great if we can get the questions that relate to things the company's actually telling us about, because otherwise they were just going to go through a checklist through every industry in the world to see if we're talking to them. And obviously there's no government that does that. Oh, Nate, any update on the swag shop business line? Suggestion, make a shirt with a torch on it. How did the swag sales go and all that, Peter?
I haven't checked. It's really good, and I hopefully before the end of the year we'll be able to cut a check and give it to a deserving group. But I really appreciate all the support we got for the swag. We continue having it. People want it's on our website. If they want to suggest things that we can put on there as well, we're open to it. It went very, very well. I don't know how much we got. It's over 3,000, maybe it's $4,000 so far. That's not of the swag. That's the profits that's going to go to.
Yeah, that's not the total revenue. That's just the profit. That's great. That's fantastic. Great. That's fantastic. Nav says the tan is wearing off, Pete. Time for some more plasma torch tanning, which, by the way, would be a great application. If I get a plasma torch in my house to help with tanning all year round, I think that would be a winner. That's 600, maybe $700 billion in revenue there alone.
Tanning salon. There you go.
Yeah,
someone's going to quote me. Someone's going to quote me now, and it's going to go crazy. But yeah.
Yeah.
After the pizza parlor.
And Yan says, Peter, thanks a lot, and let this beast grow. So, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here. It's about 2:26. Brent says $3,245.85. So I guess that number is tracked on the e-commerce store. So that's
we track it. We track it. So there it is. I think I said I thought it was 4,000, but okay, no problem.
By
That's
the way,
good. That's good.
Oracom's gonna be coming out with swag, but it won't be swag for us. It'll be for our clients. So, we're coming up with designs with some like I'm long $PYR, for example. So people wear that around and kind of, if they're gonna wear hats, they can help promote their companies at the same time. So that's something.
Are you seriously doing that? Really?
Yeah. So, but we'll do that. So where the client is front and center, maybe a Gorcom logo is on the back. You know what I mean? So it won't be to promote our brand as much as be to, for people to show off who they're long on,
Awesome.
But 227, Peter, guys, thanks to everyone for all your questions. Really amazing. PFAS won the day. If we didn't get to your question, we definitely got to parts of it. So I'm very confident that we didn't leave any questions out as far as dealing. We went everything from staffing to aluminum to PFAS to torches, to air science, to all of it. So I think we covered everything. And if we didn't, that's thanks to you guys for flooding us with so many great questions and so much great info.
It's
Peter,
great. It's
last
great.
word's going to be to you.
Yeah, George, again, thanks for offering us the opportunity to have this platform to communicate with our investors or even people who are not investors, just interested. I think it's key to keep our investor base informed. And if you're willing to put the time together and ask the question, we'll do our best to answer it. Right now, I think PyroGenesis has never been in a better position. I mean, since last June, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things that have happened during the year, during COVID. We weathered the storm well. We've been very fortunate, and we're very proud to be able to be reducing greenhouse gases and making sustainability sustainable. I thank you all for supporting us over the difficult years, funding us when we needed it, and helping us move forward. It's been a great time, and I cannot be more excited than I am today. Thanks, George, again.
Yep, and everyone here is saying thanks, Peter. They're saying it over again, Peter. Thanks. So everyone's thanking you. Great job, Pete. Guys, great job, everyone. Love this community. Love how together everybody is on this, how transparent Peter is, and how the great questions you guys are asking. It's such a great dynamic. Let's keep it going. Have a great day. For those who weren't able to tune in live, we'll have the on-demand version ready so people can listen to us while they're driving, walking, flying in their planes, or whatever else to do. And have a great day, Peter. To you and the whole team, have a fantastic day.
Take care. Ciao.
Bye. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.